All right, we gave everyone a couple minutes to join. We are glad to have you all for our housing community of practice. We will be discussing our LIHEAP assistance program, not ours, but the program is familiar to some of you. But just a couple housekeeping items is to ensure that you're muted during the Zoom call and raise your hand if you do have any questions. And then we have a Q&A feature that you can drop a question there or in the chat. Today, it's Lynette Pearl, our Senior Housing Program Officer with Refugee Housing Solutions, and myself, Yasmina Beni, the Housing Program Officer with Refugee Housing Solutions. We will be discussing LIHEAP. So the three main focuses is to understand the purpose of LIHEAP and explain the eligibility criteria, and to describe how LIHEAP can promote financial stability and energy security for newcomers, and then identify those key documents required for successful LIHEAP application. So know what LIHEAP is, know how to apply for it, know how it would benefit newcomers. So but before I begin, I just want to see if Lynette wanted to introduce herself to the group.
Thank you, Yasmin. My name is Lynette Pearl. As Yasmin stated, I'm the Senior Housing Program Officer for Refugee Housing Solutions. I do oversee the training piece for RHS and also the TA technical assistance. I do have 20 plus years in affordable housing in different capacities. So we're here for you. We are here for resettlement staff, but also we provide support for refugees and also for housing providers and landlords. So we are challenged to make sure that the connections are there, but also provide trainings and TAs that support you as resettlement staff and your clients as well. And this is one topic that we felt that would be very helpful. And we're going to go ahead and get into the presentation.
Thank you, Lynette. So understanding LIHEAP for newcomers. So by the end of this section, you will be able to understand LIHEAP's purpose and the eligibility requirements, and then identifying the importance of LIHEAP in supporting financial stability for newcomers. Oh, I think it went too far back. Sorry if it's not going ahead, but I can hand it off to Lynette to discuss this.
So the first thing I want to do, we did have a Slido, but it has not been reset, but that's okay. How many of you in the chat can you say yes that you know what LIHEAP is? How many of you know what LIHEAP is? And I'm going to watch the chat. Okay, I'm looking at the chat. Okay, Helen, Miss Helen. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good response. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this discussion. So what is LIHEAP? Well, it's a low income, it's called Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. That is what it's called, and LIHEAP is the acronym. It is a federal initiative aimed at providing essential financial support to households facing economic challenges. It does recognize the need for temperature regulation, especially in extreme weather conditions. Now, LIHEAP does assist low-income families in managing their energy costs throughout the year. Now, this program, it does ensure that households can maintain a comfortable living environment, which help them stay warm during the bitter cold of winter and cool during the summer. Now, by alleviating the financial burden of energy bills, LIHEAP does play a crucial role in safeguarding the health and safety of vulnerable populations, especially as extreme weather events do become increasingly frequent due to climate change. Now, the program does promote not just physical, financial, but also physical well-being by preventing heat-related illnesses and hypothermia, and fosters a sense of security among participants. Now, this is one thing. This program is federally funded, but is managed through state level. This allows for tailored approaches based on local needs. Now, each state has developed an enrollment process that does focus on assisting those who are most in need within their communities. So, for instance, to ensure that vulnerable populations receive timely support, seniors and individuals with disabilities are given priority and can start the application for financial assistance as early as October 1st. So I don't know, a lot of you, if you receive our newsletter, we did make an announcement that the LIHEAP application, it did open up October 1st for those households with those with disabilities or who have elderly in the household. So now we're at November 14th. So guess what? The application process is open to all that would qualify for this program. So the question is, what assistance does it provide? LIHEAP eligibility, it does vary by state. So states do have the flexibility to decide the types of assistance they provide. Now, in this training, we're just going to talk about LIHEAP in general, but we're going to also have resources available for you so you can drill down to your specific state to see what LIHEAP programs are available. I am an example type of person. I live in Kansas City, Missouri. So the LIHEAP program here in Missouri will be slightly different for the LIHEAP program that my colleague Yasmin might have because she lives in Florida. Some LIHEAP programs, of course, they do have utility assistance. Some LIHEAP programs also have weatherization assistance for landlords and for tenants. Now, with weatherization programs, the landlord and the tenant must work hand in hand in a partnership in order to get the unit or the home weatherized. So again, depending on your state, you might have different LIHEAP programs that are available. Next
Thank
slide.
you.
Now, who qualifies for LIHEAP? That's a big question. Again, this session is general information. Eligibility does vary by state. So again, you need to check with your state, and sometimes even with your city and your county might have different qualifications. The first thing they do is, because this is a low income program, is going to be income based. So eligibility is going to be based on income. The first thing you're going to look at and say, hey, does the household annual income meets the average median income, the AMI requirement for a state and or local person who's applying for this assistance? So that's the first thing they're going to look at is income. Does the household meet the income guidelines? Again, you're going to have to look at the average median income, the AMI. I live in Kansas City, Missouri. I live in Jackson County, but guess what? Another county might have different qualifications when it comes for income. So that's just one thing you always would want to look for. Again, the household size will determine eligibility. Is the applicant applying for the assistant reside in the state and or county which they're applying for? So they're going to require proof of residency when applying. So you're going to have that. And we'll talk about what type of documentation is needed for the application later in this session. As mentioned earlier, some states allow households with elderly members, disabled members to apply early. We're already past that October 1st period, but however, just say it was October 10th right now, you have a household, you want to apply. One thing they would look at is, okay, for early application, does this household have a person with a disability or someone who's elderly? So these are the things that they look for in general during who qualifies for the LIHEAP program. Now, the biggest question we might have, which we should, because we're in this resettlement space, is would my client apply for this assistance because they're considered a non-citizen? And the answer is yes. Non-citizen categories do qualify for LIHEAP program if they meet the additional program criteria for that specific area. Now, we do have, again, we have a lot of resources available for you. And after this presentation, we will be forwarding you our LIHEAP fact sheet. And part of that fact sheet, we do break down the different categories of non-citizens that are eligible for this program. Due to time constraints, we can't go in each category, but we do have that for that fact sheet so you can see, okay, my client is part of this non-citizen category, so they would qualify. Now, if you're in doubt, you can always contact the agency that's handling your LIHEAP program and applications in your specific area. And again, you will have information on how to find out what agency handles that LIHEAP for your area. Now, the big question is, what is a non-citizen? When we talk about these type of programs, we're going to look at the definition that HUD considers a non-citizen. So the definition I'm giving you is the HUD's definition. So HUD defines a non-citizen as an individual who's not a citizen or a national of the United States. So just FYI. So next slide. So why is the LIHEAP program important? Well, as you can see by this slide, it has such a great impact. So in 2022, LIHEAP provided energy assistance to over 5.3 million low-income households in the US. That's very powerful. So we're going to drill down why it's so important that a client gets assistance through LIHEAP. So why it's important for newcomers? It's a vital for newly arrived newcomer individuals and families as it supports paying their utility expenses. It helps by lessening their utility costs, and it also enables newcomers to allocate their limited financial resources to other critical needs, thus bolstering overall financial stability. Now, importantly, LIHEAP reduces the risk of extreme temperature harm from unsafe practices, like using an oven as a heat source during the winter, or the overuse of fans or cooling appliances during the summer, which strains electrical systems and can cause circuit breakers to trip. And it's not just this population. I work with veterans. I have seen, due to the fact that they don't want their utility expenses to go up, I've seen clients use the stove to heat their unit. Again, if they had that stipend to help to pay for their utility bills, it helps, with those risky behaviors of trying to stay warm or cool. One of LIHEAP's objective is to prioritize household with the highest energy requirements. So often, a newcomer household are large, resulting in higher energy needs and increased utility costs. Now, this program is beneficial not only to low-income families, but also to households with large energy consumption. So that's why it's so important that you work with your clients to know, to educate them what the LIHEAP program is and get their application processed.
Thank you, Lynette. I had two Slidos, but because they're not working entirely, I'm just going to try to ask those who know the answers already given. But as a single and elderly individual with limited income, would they qualify for LIHEAP? The answer is yes. Yes, they would, because they meet that criteria. But navigating LIHEAP application process will vary from state to state, as Lynette mentioned. The outline for application process, we'll share those resources in the follow-up email, but it's going to be discussed here in this PowerPoint. We're going to identify those resources from state-specific requirements and then understand the process for households with high energy needs. Questions already kind of given again, but feel free to drop it in the chat if you had any comments on this or other thoughts. But what do you expect is the most common challenges newcomers face when applying for LIHEAP? It's usually the navigating the language barriers. But of course, there's other challenges that they experience. But I know Lynette has mentioned before about, when it comes to a language barrier, it shouldn't be a problem because LIHEAP is a federal program where they are required to provide translation services for those for the application process.
So we're going to go ahead and thank you for that summary, Yasmin. We're going to go ahead and talk about the LIHEAP application process. And again, I want to add that caveat. This is just going to be the general flow of an application process. But again, each provider is slightly different because they want to make sure they meet the needs of the community. And I see Ryan. Yes, Ryan, go Chiefs. Absolutely. I'm still following the chat. So yes, I am not a football fan, but I've learned to become one. I have no choice. I live in KC. I moved from Dallas. I wasn't a Cowboys fan, but hey, yes, Ryan, go Chiefs. So shout out to Ryan in the chat. Let's talk about the LIHEAP application. Again, feel free to put your comments in the chat. This is about you. We can stop and we can answer questions, but let's talk about the application process. Of course, as I talked about earlier, the goal is to make sure low-income families apply for this. So the first thing when you do an application, you want to confirm your client's eligibility for that specific area. What they do look when it comes to income, they do look at everybody over the age of 18 that is working. That income will be considered as part of the eligibility. So just FYI. So confirm the income, confirm the household, and your state-specific or even your county-specific criteria. The one thing you want to do, because LIHEAP, they get so many applications, you want to make sure you gather all the required documentation before helping a client apply for LIHEAP. The last thing you want to do is get the application, they're missing a piece, and guess what? Staff have so many applications, they're going to go to the next one. So make sure that you gather all the correct documentation when you're helping your client apply for LIHEAP. One thing they're going to ask for is proof of income, household verification. They're going to want that documentation of that utility bill. And you're going to say, well, what if my client doesn't have, for example, their proof of income, or they're not currently working? Well, if they're working with you as a resettlement agency, you can provide a letter of support outlining how much assistance they're receiving on your letterhead. That can be used as proof of income. So just FYI. If they're receiving any other benefits, that can be used as proof of income. If they qualify for food stamps, that's an award letter showing that they are a low-income family. So just FYI. Another thing you want to make sure is the bill. The utility bill is in their name, or they're responsible for paying the utility bill. Now, you might say, well, what if utilities is part of their rent? Now, if the utilities is part of their rent, they would have to break down, they can ask their landlord to break down a percentage of how much the utility cost is towards the rent. But I have seen when utilities are included in the rent, usually they do not qualify for LIHEAP. So just FYI. So it does vary based on your area. Again, LIHEAP can be used for gas, water, or electricity. Again, it depends on the LIHEAP program, okay? Because you might have a landlord says, okay, utilities are included. That could be just electric. But guess what? Say if you lived in a community where there's a lot of gas usage, and your client does pay for gas outside of what's included, the LIHEAP program can cover that gas usage as well. So just hopefully I explained that, because sometimes people get confused with that. So another thing, let me see, we talked about the application, making sure you have the documentation of ID. A person does have to verify who they are, who is applying for the application. I-94 can be used as part of the application process as well.
Or housing.
Does someone have a question? Does anyone have a question? Okay, so once the application is filled out, again, each provider is slightly different how they receive applications. I've seen some applications, they want you to do it in a portal. I've seen some providers, you have to walk in and do an application. So make sure if you're preparing your client, getting all the documentation together, make sure you have the preferred way to submit the application. Now, once the application is submitted, again, you want to make sure they get a verification letter, because usually they'll send a letter saying we received your application and this is the next step. So just FYI. And then you have to wait for the approval. Now, once a client does get approved, it does break down the amount that they're approved for and what specifically they're going to get approved of. So again, here in KC, the way our LIHEAP program is, you can get approved for gas and you can get approved for electricity. Now, in different areas, you might get just approved for electricity. So that's why it's very important that you contact the provider to see what does LIHEAP what utilities it specifically covers. I think we're on to the next slide, Yasmin.
Good, that's perfect timing to talk about the state variances in LIHEAP eligibility and assistance, which Lynette already touched on how most states use that 150% of federal poverty line for the area median income, but it will vary based on local cost. So that's the difference between like the eligibility, and then there's a difference in assistance. The income limits affect their benefit amounts. And then priority populations.
Yes, I'm in a training, but I think.
Can everyone please be muted? Thank you. Okay, so priority populations. So certain states prioritize assistance for elderly individuals, families with young children, or households with disabilities. That doesn't mean those that are not on the prioritization list wouldn't receive assistance, but it's just depending on the state. For instance, like Lynette said, I'm in Florida. There's a lot more elderly folks here, so they're more likely to be higher on the priority list for receiving funding first because they have more needs or they have lower income, etc. The documentation requirements also vary from state to state. Some require different forms of residency and forms of utility. I know Lynette mentioned how we've had conversations where some had a lease agreement where the utility bill is part of their rent. So how do we separate that? Does a state recognize that? Does that affect their eligibility? What can they do about it? Same thing with assistance. You know, the heating and cooling costs are different. Here in Florida, we don't use heat as much. We use more of our AC, so cooling is a higher priority for assistance in the summer season. But the crisis programs also vary too when it comes to the type of shutoff shortages, extreme weather, to expedite that support. Like here in Florida, we'll have like a natural disaster, like a hurricane. So there won't be AC. We won't have our refrigerator working. So they have different definitions of those crises and how they can provide support. And so the next step is knowing how to, create this checklist for your client and explaining to them what type of documents they need, which is proof of identity, their ID, their passport, proof of income, pay stub, social security statement, etc., a utility bill with their name and address of the client. And if the lease agreement already includes a utility bill, they need to figure out how to adjust that and speak with the LIHEAP local office to ensure that they still can qualify for assistance.
Now, Yasmin, we do have a question I want to address. Allison, can you give me a little bit more clarity if you feel comfortable coming?
Hi, yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Great. Thank you so much for everything that you all have presented on so far, but I did have a question. So, and this kind of stated something, this is going back to something you said earlier, Lynette, but federal programming does require to provide interpretation services. What I'm thinking specifically of we have affiliates throughout the United States. I'm thinking specifically of an affiliate in Alabama that I know has had problems with language line, just any sort of interpretation being provided to their clients when it comes to all kinds of social services, but also including LIHEAP. And just wondering if there is a sort of process that affiliates can use when they are running into that sort of issue of not being provided the appropriate interpretation when it does come to these federal programs.
We can talk offline, Allison, if you want to set up a TA, but I highly recommend that you align yourself with your fair housing.
It's not your client.
Can you mute? Can you please mute yourself, sir? Okay, thank you. I highly recommend you align yourself with your local fair housing agencies, because sometimes it's due to the fact I really believe some agencies just don't know, and it's just educating them. But if it's beyond they know, they just choose not to, is getting your fair housing agency involved to make them compliant. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We can talk offline if you can give me more details, and I can tell you what direction, the best direction to go. Again, the key thing is federal funding has to be attached to it. Now, if it's something private, it's slightly different, but if it's federal funding that's attached to it, they have to have reasonable accommodations to accommodate translation. One thing we didn't talk about I'm glad you brought that up, Allison, is with LIHEAP. The LIHEAP application does come in different languages. Of course, the most popular one is Spanish, but there are other languages the LIHEAP application does come in. They do come in different translation, but we can talk offline if you want to, talk to me, email me. I'll send you my email. We'll have that at the end of discussion, and you can kind of give me some more some more specifics, and we can guide you a little bit better how to navigate through that, because I truly want to believe the best in people and think they just haven't been educated.
Excellent question and response, Lynette.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Allison, but I'm gonna put my email in the chat anyway, and you can email me and we can kind of set some time. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. I think I accidentally sent it to Ryan. I am, hold on. I gotta take it off from direct message to everyone. I apologize.
I'll go ahead and proceed with just to be
Yes, ma'am,
respectful.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to be mindful of everyone's time. But we are happy to have technical assistance sessions outside of our COPs and outside of the LIHEAP hours. We have office hours for LIHEAP. But like we were discussing, as one of the main objectives of LIHEAP is to help those households with high energy needs. Those vulnerable populations, which newcomers are considered vulnerable because they're new to the U.S. They don't come with a high income. Some come with young children or those with disabilities, and they're in a new environment. They're at an increased risk for facing higher health risks during extreme temperatures. There's a high energy cost burden when it comes to some utility bills. So the LIHEAP does that cost assessment where they evaluate the energy cost burden by reviewing past utility bills. I don't know if anyone has checked their utility bills lately or in the mail or on their online platform. Me in Florida, I can see a spike go up during the summer hours. I'm using more electricity because I'm inside more. I want to have my fans on. I want to have my AC on. And then during the winter, it goes up again because I'm wanting to use my stove to cook more, right? So LIHEAP uses that to evaluate to see, where and how much support that they can provide. And if they're considered a high cost household that could qualify for prioritized assistance. Then there's a crisis benefits for the emergency support and seasonal aid. And then additional documentation will be required for proof of those high need households for medical records or disconnection notices, etc. So these are all things to keep mindful of if
Give me
you
something?
want to expedite the process for
Watching that video. Why?
Just
sorry, just gonna mute you guys. Sorry. But nearly 70% of the LIHEAP recipients rely on it to keep their home warm during winter months, and that's based off the National Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. From LIHEAP themselves, that they were able to collect this data and realize how valuable it is to those vulnerable populations. So where else can you learn more about LIHEAP and the application process is by checking out the LIHEAP Clearinghouse, which will be included in the follow-up email after this presentation later today, where you'll receive, the PowerPoint presentation, the links, and all the fun stuff regarding LIHEAP. But the site includes like list of specific state-specific resources on the application, like the contact information, local agencies that handle LIHEAP applications. It's also a helpful overview of new applicants who have never applied before and the guidelines for verifying eligibility based on income and household size. Because they have that area median income, the AMI, to determine, for that local city, county, etc., if, they meet that income guideline. So this is essentially how the map will look when you get to the LIHEAP clearinghouse. And you'll pick your region, like I'm in Florida, so I am considered region 4. Lynette is here, so she's considered region 7. It's based on these regions because this is where they, localize it to figure out the AMI and how much funding can be allocated to each state. So this is what you want to look out for to find where your city and state is for resources. I'm going to try to play this quick video, hoping it will work with the sound. But if it doesn't, we can drop it in the chat. Don't think it's prepared well, like it's kind of buffering.
And if not, that's okay, Yasmin. We can always drop the link and you can watch it later because I like to see visual things to help me absorb information. So that's why we have it. But I also want to mention with LIHEAP, we're talking because we're going into winter, depending, we're in the Midwest. But LIHEAP also has a summer program as well. So we are going to provide resources when it comes to when applications are accepted for summer as well. So just FYI.
Yep.
Next slide, Yasmin. if you can't get that to work.
Okay. The addressing common challenges and providing support. Lynette will take it off from here.
Okay. So by this time, you're going to end by this session. You're going to address common LIHEAP challenges faced by newcomer families, direct clients to LIHEAP resources and local offices, and provide information on accessing RHSTA for LIHEAP. So let's go into some of the common challenges. I think we kind of already talked about those. The first one is being language barriers. We will provide you some, I just thought about it because Allison's question. We're going to add some more resources. We're going to give you resources how to contact your fair housing agency. So if you feel that a client is being not just discriminated with LIHEAP or any resources or housing, you should have a good relationship with your fair housing agency anyway. So you know what your client's rights are when it comes to housing and any federal programs they have the ability to apply for. So we'll make sure we get that for you too. Another problem is navigating the social server process. It could be very frustrating. That could be a challenge too, and not knowing what's available to them. So that's why we're here to make sure when we see resources non-citizens can qualify for, we want to make sure you guys have those tools to give to your clients. And documentation, that's another biggest challenge, making sure that they have the necessary documentation when they are applying. We talked about what alternative documentation they can have. They can have their I-94, their passport to prove who they are. Also, if they are receiving assistance, getting a letter, a support letter from the resettlement agency breaking down their assistance. If your client already is receiving food stamps, that's already saying they're a low-income family. That award letter can be used to show that they're a low-income family. In the utility bill, making sure they have the utility bill in their name, or if, again, they're paying for utilities, it's not in their name, getting something documented from their landlord stating what they're responsible for when it comes to utilities. What another thing could be a challenging thing is technology. Everything is so portal when you're applying. I have seen agencies say, hey, we only take our LIHEAP applications through a portal. I've seen one agency say, we only take applications through Facebook. I'm like, wait, what? They only take referrals through Facebook. And I'm thinking, wow, what if I don't have a Facebook account? What if I don't have these things? So that can be a challenge to a newcomer, especially if they have to apply through a portal. And again, this is a federal program, so making sure that there's a paper access or a way they can do a walk-in to do their application. And another biggest fear I've seen from the field is fear of legal consequences. Again, I want to be careful how I say this. This is utility assistance. I don't know what's going to happen with the next administration, but for now, they shouldn't have to fear getting help when it comes to applying for utilities. So reassure your client that I know there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of falsehoods out there, but this is a utility assistance based on what this particular program says you do qualify. So there's nothing to fear when you're applying. So just FYI. So those are some of the challenges we might face with LIHEAP. I want to open it up because again, we're here to assist you and answer questions. Is there any questions about this piece, this section? Well, I take it as a no. So let's go to the next section. I also want to make sure that you guys have the tools to be successful when you're talking to your clients. One of the things, again, knowing is half the battle. A lot of times they don't even know about disconnection laws, what they are. So we added this piece in there. There are laws stating that utilities cannot be disconnected if it's a certain temperature. Their utilities cannot be shut off. So we'll make sure you get that link to what is a hot weather rule. And now we're going into winter. What is a cold weather rule? So if your client knows during this time period, it's a cold weather rule and it's a certain temperature, a utility company cannot turn their utilities off, even if they're behind, okay? And the same goes for the hot weather rule as well. I also want to say this as best practices. If you are working with a family, you already know they have a medical issue, and if utilities are shut off, it can cause a medical hardship. You should already get that medical hardship registered with their utility provider. that gives them a leverage. So if they do fall behind in their bill, and that gives them an extension so they can make sure that they get enough time to get some utility assistance so their services do not get shut off. So I just highly recommend that you do that. If you already know you have a fragile family with medical needs, get that need registered with the utility provider. Usually it's just a simple form that a medical provider can fill out or a third party professional can fill out in behalf of that household. Okay, next slide. And
So case study. Now that we know that there is disconnection loss, thank you, Lynette. We're going to just give an example of a newcomer family, the Hesson family. Recently arrived in the U.S. with limited resources and a tight budget. A common story. They come to the U.S., but they don't have as much resources. They have that tight budget. But now they're in a new environment with high heating costs in the winter that left them struggling to afford basic necessities. So they were able to get LIHEAP. So with LIHEAP support, the family was able to receive help to cover their utility bills, freeing up funds for essentials like food, clothing, school supplies for their children. This financial relief would allow them to feel more secure and stable during their initial months in a new country. It helps with that stability. Here's a good LIHEAP comparison table that we wanted to give you. It's an example. They could use it however they like in real life. But for here, we wish rent would be 700, but for this example, let's just say it's 700. Before LIHEAP, it's still going to stay the same, their rent costs, because LIHEAP is not going towards rent, it's going towards their utilities. So you can see the drop of $200 from before LIHEAP and then after LIHEAP. So that $200 can be applied elsewhere. Groceries was able to be increased. Their clothing supplies and transportation remained the same, but they were able to, have $100 surplus, whereas before they were deficient by $50. So it did help with getting them more stable with their other necessities and in their housing situation. So there's many other examples out there, and when you go to the LIHEAP website for the clearinghouse, it'll provide more resources on looking at the AMI, seeing how it could also help financially. I think the next slide is still not working, but do you feel confident explaining LIHEAP eligibility requirements to newcomers now? You can drop it in the chat, or now you can unmute and say, yes, you do, based on what you know now or what you know more of with LIHEAP. Try to monitor the chat as well. Because the goal of this is to increase more knowledge on LIHEAP and, use this as another form of a housing strategy to make their housing situation more stable. But I'm gonna go back. Don't hop off yet, as we want to kind of wrap up and give you guys some time to ask questions and navigate more about LIHEAP. But the key takeaways is LIHEAP offers that essential support for newcomer families struggling with energy costs, and then understanding the eligibility criteria and the documentation, of course, will vary from state to state, but we've given you a general basis of what is needed. And then the resources and support are available to overcome common challenges and application from the clearinghouse for LIHEAP. But the next steps is we're hoping for mostly resettlement agencies or those working with refugee service providers to identify newcomer clients who may benefit from LIHEAP. Like if you're, sitting here through this presentation, you kind of thought of a family, you're like, you know what, this is perfect for them. This would help them. This would alleviate some of the costs for their housing. Send us an email, schedule technical assistance with us. We can kind of help navigate with where to apply, how to get the application started, and other questions you may have. And then providing those newcomer clients with more resources, of course, and then staying informed with state-specific LIHEAP updates is the goal that we hope.
We got some questions. And yes, we will be sharing the presentation, the PowerPoint. Yasmin is very good about doing quick follow-up. So, and additional support resources. So you will have that. And yes, Tom, like we said, well, this is just a general LIHEAP session. Each state is totally different, so you do have some LIHEAP programs that don't open up till later. So you're correct. So if yours is in December, that might be true. Again, each state is slightly different due to weather conditions. So one thing I wanted to add, can you hit the next slide, Yasmin? We do TA regardless. That's what we're here for. We do TA, but we have dedicated our time on Wednesdays to Fridays just for LIHEAP questions from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So you can go on our website and book a session with myself or Yasmin, but we also do TA regardless. So you don't have to wait for that specific time if you have questions by LIHEAP, or you just have a quick questions, you can just email us, okay? So we just want to let you know we're here for you. And one thing I also wanted to state that with LIHEAP, we talk about our clients, but we have to talk about ourselves sometimes. You'd be surprised, the AMI, you might qualify yourself. So check for yourself and see if you can qualify for LIHEAP as well. So I know things are tight. So if there is a resource out there that you qualify for, there is nothing wrong with you applying for it because it's supposed to help all.
Yeah, we can even assist with the lease agreements to look them over, making sure that if it includes the utility bill in their lease, how would they qualify for LIHEAP in their state? But yeah, you can, send us a message, use our booking system on our website. I can drop it in the chat later after the presentation. But we do have a feedback form. The QR code may not be working, so just give me a moment so I can drop in the chat and then re-share my screen.
Don't worry about it. I think I got it for you, Yasmin. Let me look at it.
Lynette's ahead.
I think I have it.
Perfect. Just gonna catch up on the questions. Oh, Selena was ahead too. Thank you. That's our survey. Just takes a few minutes to
Oh,
get some
Selena.
feedback. Thank you, Selena, so much.
Now, is there any questions? We have plenty of time. We open it up to the floor.
I will also drop our booking link shortly. So if you did want to schedule a technical assistance session with us, we can meet outside the LIHEAP office hours or during them. Yes, the presentation will be shared via email. So if you registered for this community of practice, you will be included in our follow-up email.
And please, please, please fill out our feedback form. That makes sure that we know how to, what topic to cover for the next COP, because we want to make sure they're relevant to what you need in the field. So please fill that TA form out before you leave. Feedback form. And we're going to hang out a little bit just in case someone wants to ask questions. We're here.
I will also drop in the chat the YouTube video. It will also be included in the email follow-up, but if you wanted to watch it beforehand, you're more than welcome to. I think it needs a second just to load for me to copy paste. Yes, we will send out the email. Thank you for adding your email. Just in case it wasn't listed in the Zoom, but I will include you in the email.
Think we're clear, Yasmin?
I can give everyone their 10 minutes back with their busy days. But we're grateful for you all joining. Thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to us. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.